people, and rightly so, are so embedded in the existing project that they might have of being able to migrate this kind of legacy desktop laptop environment into a modernized workspace. And sometimes poor old print's left behind. That's where the kind of panic kicks in. Whereas what we're trying to promote is a more kind of strategic way of thinking about it.
Hello and welcome to In the Spotlight with Quocirca, the definitive podcast on digital disruption in the print industry. I'm Louella Fernandes, CEO of Quocirca, and this series is brought to you in collaboration with Microsoft Universal Print. In today's age of hybrid work, we have a seemingly ideal balance of flexibility and productivity, but beneath the surface are there hidden risks around the print infrastructure. Today, we're diving into the topic of securing the print environment in the hybrid workplace, and I'm delighted to be joined by Mike Reynolds and Ben Roberts from Tungsten Automation. We'll be looking at the importance of print despite digital transformation and why organisations need to prioritise securing the print environment. So welcome to the show.
Hey, hi.
Thank you, Louella.
Yeah, so great to have you here. So if we could start with some introductions before we get into the conversation. So Ben, could you tell us a bit about your role at Tungsten, please?
Sure. So I'm a regional sales manager here in the UK, supporting our UK, Ireland and Nordic customers, helping them understand how they can move their print infrastructure to cloud, amongst other solutions in our document automation and security portfolio.
I'm a Senior Director of Product Management for the Print Automation and Workplace product set globally. So that would be Control Suite, Printix, and in our Capture products as well.
Well, it's great to have you both here today for this episode. And as I mentioned, we'll be discussing the hidden risks in the print infrastructure and how organisations can take steps to secure hybrid work environment through a platform such as the Tungsten Hybrid Cloud Infrastructure. So to start off with, Mike, I wanted to really understand a bit more about what you're seeing in the markets, particularly in terms of the fact that many organisations are accelerating their digitisation initiatives. And with that said, is there still a reliance on print? And what are you seeing in the market and how is that exposing organisations to print security risks?
Yeah, there's still a large reliance on print, although the volumes are declining slightly. There's been a shift in the market how print's being used. Now, since the COVID pandemic, we've had a lot of people going to working from home. What that's done is really change the workforce in its entirety, where you have a demand of people being able to work anywhere, at any place, at any time, whether it be in their offices, other remote locations, at home, or at their Uncle Bob's house. So people have an expectation of being able to work, not just work, but also print. And that leaves some complications as far as being able to have reporting, auditing, compliance for what's being printed and how that's being addressed. So while there's still a reliance, things have shifted a bit, and there's a lot more concern that's going on with the security and also data sovereignty issues that are going on with print. So we're seeing a lot of those issues right now.
I think particularly 2025 will be a really interesting year in terms of the return to the office, and particularly with more organisations wanting to have their employees back, potentially 5 days a week, and that's creating challenges and opportunities for how to drive productivity and security for the workplace. So based on that, Ben, we do hear a lot about security and compliance, and in the hybrid work environment, there can be some confusion and complexity around that. What are your views on what hybrid actually means in this context, and why is securing the print infrastructure so critical to businesses?
I'm glad you raised it because hybrid can be seen as many different things nowadays. It's a very popular buzzword. And there's many different types of hybrid things in personal and professional lives. We drive hybrid cars, we ride hybrid bikes. People who train and exercise in a hybrid way, like high roxers as an example. Everybody seems to want the best of both worlds. And it's a common thing that we're running into. But what does it actually mean for tungsten automation and specifically printing? I mean, hybrid, if you kind of strip back the years or decades of printing in general, there's various different types of setups. So you might be a small business who are plugging in printers to laptops and things are working okay. But I'm sure we all respect, that does leave you open to some vulnerabilities and security issues when you're trying to release your documents in a secure manner. Then you've got the kind of upgrade to that where organizations are using servers or print servers specifically to be able to deploy group policies to people so they have what they need when they need it. For some of the more intricate setups, they might have scripts and various other things running, but these things can be quite painful to manage and update and kind of need to be babysat pretty much all the time with patches, updates, maintenance. Never mind actually retaining the people that built all of that complexity way back. Then you've got that next step, which is introducing print management from an on-premise perspective, which can implement all of those security measures. But the biggest thing that we're seeing is, how do you start to connect that legacy print environment, even if it's in a print server, with an existing print management solution, to the cloud? And that's where we kind of step in and offer a bridge to be able to link these two different worlds together. So organizations can leverage those benefits and powers of cloud, but also retaining some of that on-premise functionality that they might have had before.
Now, it's interesting to hear that Tungsten are taking a hybrid cloud-based approach. So could you talk a bit more about particular platforms you've got, Mike? So I know you've got a hybrid cloud with Printix and Control Suite, and how do those work together and potentially integrate with other solutions?
So Printix is our public cloud infrastructure print product. So it gives a global backbone of support for print. Printix has a feature called a hybrid cloud print enabler. That is the key component that makes a lot of this possible, where it's able to connect to not just Control Suite, Equitrack, our own products, but we could also integrate with other third-party on-premise or even private cloud products too, such as the Papercuts or the Ysofts or the Ferroses out there. It can connect with those products. So that way, print jobs, they can traverse through both products through multiple infrastructures, whether it be public cloud facilitated by Printix or bridging over to an on-premise or private cloud solution. So you don't have to have two separate disparate solutions with two separate applications sitting on a desktop that could potentially complicate things for end users. Which application do I use for whatever workflow? It takes all the guesswork out of it, and it makes it a lot easier for IT to support it. So you have a nice global unified solution that can support multiple third-party on-premise solutions when needed to support specific workflows with specific needs, or even as contracts expire around the globe. We have some customers that have multiple third-party on-premise solutions for varying needs with that Printix global backbone that unifies and connects them all together. And especially with enterprises, that's really making a difference for them.
So it sounds like the hybrid cloud platform is really a holistic platform that integrates with the legacy infrastructure that they may have. And as they come to upgrade that, then that can adapt and they can ultimately future-proof their print environment using the Tungsten platform. So I'm just picking up on that then, because you mentioned the legacy print infrastructure. And as you mentioned, it creates a lot of challenges. And from a perspective of not only the print management platforms, but also the devices, what kind of security risks are you really seeing that it's posing in today's hybrid workplace?
Well, this is the thing, because these print setups typically only manage a certain amount of devices. So if you're looking at on-premise print management tools, then typically they would control the office-based printing, right? But it's no secret that a lot of organizations have a significantly bigger footprint of other devices across their entire organization. So take some verticals like manufacturing or construction or logistics as an example. Yes, they have an office function, but they've also got shop floor operations and these kind of things as well, which have single function printers, maybe quite dated hardware in there, just kind of running and doing its job, and label printers as well. I think people forget that these things are still a device that actually has an output, and some poor person still needs to manage these things. And this is probably one of the biggest things that we see, is that organizations aren't looking at the bigger picture here in how the whole show or print estate needs to be managed. So, as Mike alluded to there, in terms of this infrastructure layer, we can actually give you the best of both worlds and make sure that you can manage, deploy, and configure your whole entire print estate, no matter what type of device it is. And that's probably the biggest kind of win that our customers are seeing as they start to move into this kind of cloud way of working with print specifically.
Because certainly we're seeing that print security is still fairly low on the IT security agenda. So it's still something that, even though there's been more awareness built by, the OEMs and print management vendors around secure printing and protecting devices from compromise, I think there's still an element of complacency or perhaps lack of awareness, or even it's just not prioritized. Is that something you're seeing with your customers then?
So we do see this a bit, but what we're seeing quite rapidly now is people coming to us with a real world problem. Almost like an 11th hour situation. We are modernizing our workspace, right? So the laptops and the desktops that we are using, we are working with the likes of Entra, Google Workspace, and we need to use Endpoint Manager to deliver all of our applications. This particular thing is causing a huge issue when you're trying to connect it to the legacy print environment. That seems to be the biggest thing that people are taking away at the moment.
It's interesting. I think that the legacy infrastructure is a really important point, because what we're seeing also is a bit of a renaissance around MPS, and that MPS providers are now going back to organisations and looking at reassessing their print fleet for the hybrid workplace. There's more of an opportunity to deploy distributed print fleets, and that this gives rise to the need for a platform like Tungsten hybrid cloud infrastructure to manage that disparate fleet. So I think it's really good timing to understand more about Tungsten's approach in the market. So Mike, if we move on to the solutions within the Tungsten Automation portfolio, particularly Printix, what things would you suggest that organisations should consider when selecting a hybrid print solution? And if you could tell us a bit more about the Printix platform as well.
Flexibility seems to be key out there, especially the global enterprises where you have different systems, departmental systems, different departmental solutions that perhaps your print or capture needs to work with. And at the same time, you have no idea what is out there with employee home offices. What printers do they have? You certainly want to have visibility to what they're printing and be able to have an audit trail for that. So it's not just the flexibility of integrating with other systems, but also the flexibility of supporting whatever you've got out there, any printer, anywhere in the world, anytime you need a print. We have a library of current drivers, and we automatically deploy those drivers in queues based upon where the employee's plugged in at. So it'll take a look, the client will take a look and see, oh, we have a Brother MFC 9340 CDW. That's what I print to, and HP and everybody else. Great products, but able to see that, set up a native driver, have it automatically deployed, and the end user doesn't even know. All they know is they're printing. It works at home. If they go to their Uncle Bob's house, they have to do a little work, print out a proposal. It'll automatically take a look and see what Uncle Bob's printer is, set that up for them seamlessly in the background. The end user doesn't know anything. All they know is they can print. And IT has a reporting audit trail, audit log of all those prints, therefore checking the security and compliance box. So that flexibility of not just being able to be flexible with internal systems and legacy systems and having the APIs to connect to just about anything, which we're very, very strong with our API set, but also the equipment side as well. So that's what's key, being flexible, being able to quickly get the end user on the right track and doing what they have to do. So they don't have to think about it. All they have to do is work, and it just works for them.
Yes, and I guess it's all about making that user experience simple and seamless. And actually, that's a really good point about the home printing, because even if there is this gradual move to sort of the return to the office, hybrid work is still going to be prevalent. And organisations are still going to have employees printing in the home environment. And we've seen over the past few years, this has really led to this kind of shadow printing that's happening, that's not been controlled or monitored. So, what you were saying around the Printix platform being able to monitor that and actually identify what devices are connected is really important, isn't it, from a security perspective?
Yeah, absolutely. It's crucial. And plus, it gives a level of consistency on how it's done globally. So you don't have one region of the globe doing things one certain way and another region doing things another way. It's consistently deployed. You have a consistent set of policies, and it makes things, it gives IT more of a peace of mind that they have full reporting and compliance taken care of.
I think with print management, it's a very traditional platform or sort of solutions that organisations have deployed. And as we mentioned earlier, Ben, it can be quite complex in terms of IT administrative time and also from an end user perspective. So with Printix, how does it kind of cut through that complexity? Because I know it does aim to make IT administration easier for IT teams. And maybe you can share some case studies or examples of where customers have deployed it.
Yeah, sure. So a lot of hard work and decades of experience have gone into making Printix, what it is today, and trying to strip away the complexity associated to how a print environment is set up and deployed. So one of the tools that we have, it Mike kind of touched on here, is the ability to be able to automatically deploy the queues and drivers, native drivers, to the users based on location. That itself is one of the biggest hurdles that people face, especially in this hybrid way of working. As I move from my home office to our London office to our Birmingham office, I don't want to have to be calling IT and saying, hey, I need to print this one document, let's say it is. I can't wait 2 to 3 hours for that to hit my endpoint so I can actually do the job. It sometimes forces me to go around policies potentially and start sharing that document elsewhere just so I can get that part of my job done. So this is something that we're seeing time and time again. But the Printix tool specifically has tools built into it to seamlessly identify a network when that user hits it and deploy what's needed to them specifically so they can carry on and do their job without seeing a list of hundreds and hundreds of print queues and potentially sending the documents to the wrong location is just one example. We've seen a couple of different customers in different spaces, but one we can mention is in an education where they had a significant amount of help desk tickets on the return to schools after the summer period, after introducing a new way of working with the modernization of their laptops. This was something that was unbearable, in fact, and they couldn't cope. They actually had to have calls in the weekend to make sure that they had enough resources in order to be able to, accommodate the working needs of the staff and, most importantly, the pupils, because, those are the ones that matter the most. We managed to implement Printix in just a couple of weeks there and quickly remediated all of those painful help desk tickets that they were getting previously, just with some of those simplified. I shouldn't undercook them, right? Because decades of experience have gone into it, but that simplified way of working delivered a massive result for this organization. And I think the most important part as well is, yes, it freed up time, resources, and all these good things, but it massively improved the well-being of that IT team and allowed them to focus on high priority tasks and continue pushing on with that and let print just do its job. And, it might not be seen as the breaking age technology, print in itself, but it serves a huge purpose in a lot of verticals today. And you soon know about it when it stops working, put it that way.
Print isn't going to go away. Obviously the market is flat to declining in terms of print volumes. But, again, as you say, there is still many organisations reliant on print to support some key business critical processes. And I just wanted to pick up on that because you mentioned, when they do finally get it, then it's something that they realise they need to act. So what do you think is that tipping point when they do make that decision to decide they can't do it the old way, they need to look at modernising their print environment?
Well, the trend we're seeing is that people, and rightly so, are so embedded in the existing project that they might have of being able to migrate this kind of legacy desktop, laptop environment into a modernized workspace. And there's so much that has to go into it. Lots of planning, lots of preparation and resource and budget as well. And sometimes poor old print's left behind. And it's not really thought about till the 11th hour. And when they finally kind of get the deployment going and realize quite quickly, oh, how is this going to connect to, our print servers or whatever it might be? That's where the kind of panic kicks in. That's where the problems kick in. That's where the support tickets start to really escalate and run away with itself. So sometimes we're seeing a bit of a knee-jerk reaction, like I need to do this now because of other things. Whereas what we're trying to promote is a more kind of strategic way of thinking about it. As organizations are looking to, move laptops, upgrade to Windows 10, 11, or whatever it might be, make sure that print is firmly placed inside that project so you can develop the best way of working moving forward.
Yes, and I think there is that great opportunity that's coming up with the technology refresh that you mentioned around Windows 10 coming to end of life in October of this year. And with our research, we've seen that many organisations are not only looking to upgrade their PC and their laptops, but also their print environment. And it is a great opportunity, isn't it, for organisations to start reassessing how they can potentially reduce their reliance on legacy print solutions and tools and devices and actually modernise their print environment. Would you agree with that, Mike?
Yeah, I do, absolutely. Usually it's a bigger pain that drives things. And that pain right now is, yes, you have the modernization, you have the updates of Windows 10 to 11 and so forth. But also there's a lot of enterprises out there, and you all know who you are, that are still using Windows Server 2012 R2 for various print servers, hidden in all various nooks and crannies of the globe. Or perhaps they're migrating from SAP ECC to S/4HANA, which is another big move that's going on. And they need to facilitate printing and having to revisit how they're going to address the printing, either updating print servers or deciding to go to the cloud. What are secure options and looking at that? And then suddenly there's other issues of print, like supporting the home users, and it just starts to pile on from that point. And that's when organizations realize, like, oh, wow, it's more than just printing from the server. It's more than just printing to SAP. There's a lot more to this. And that's when they start to panic and have that moment. And that's when we're able to come in and help them in addressing all of their Windows print, their home print, and even having a cloud-based solution for the SAP print, whether if it's through the older ECC versions or the new cloud S/4HANA versions, we're able to have them covered with our hybrid solution.
Ben, you sort of mentioned about your customers who have made that decision to modernise, and you've been able to deploy Tungsten Automation solutions very quickly. Have you got any examples of where businesses haven't adapted or they've realised too late, and what impact that has led to for that particular business?
Yeah, great point. So we do have a number of them. I think you would have had to been living under a rock if you didn't hear about Print Nightmare, which was a big issue that a lot of customers faced in the last couple of years. We have one customer specifically who was hit really severely with this and quickly had to completely decrement their server infrastructure. Which, with the scale of this organization serving global sites, let's say, with over 10,000 users, this was a big job to be able to complete. So they went out to market and actually came to us directly, where we were able to help them understand how Printix could work in a serverless environment, let's say. They were able to implement that start to finish across all of their users in just 8 to 10 weeks, I believe, which is a dramatic result, let's say. It allowed them to get away from the problem that they really had, but actually improved the experience tenfold for both the end user and the IT team, as none of those regular updates, patches, maintenance, fixes, updating scripts, GPOs, or whatever could be banished. So that's one example of where we've managed to really fix a real world problem, which a lot of other people have faced. Thankfully now a lot of people have moved on from that, but it still shows that these things can happen. I think in the news as well, we've heard about various different vulnerabilities with drivers, meaning that IT teams have got to change those quite abruptly. If you haven't got some type of intelligent system to be able to do that, you're logging on to each and every person's machine and potentially break fixing that. You amplify that across hundreds, thousands, 10,000s of users. That's an awful lot of IT time. That's where, kind of Printix and our offerings really come to life, because within a few clicks, you can get that driver updated and deployed to the entire workforce in a matter of seconds.
I agree. I think with Print Nightmare, that certainly did help elevate awareness of print security as a challenge, both for not only the organisations that were sort of challenged with dealing with that, but potentially also for cyber attackers. And I think it's one of the reasons that Microsoft have introduced Windows Protected Print. I don't know if you want to add anything to that, Mike?
Yes, certainly. Windows Protected Print is a response to a vulnerability in the Windows print spooler. If you have a print management system that's properly updated, properly implemented, you're typically covered in those types of situations. And the Windows Protected Print is Microsoft's way of also addressing that vulnerability. Now, it's based off of IPP print, or Internet Protocol print, which is kind of a stripped down driverless style of print, but you don't really have some of the the feature functionality that comes with drivers that the manufacturers provide included in that. So some people, they want to have that more advanced functionality. Other folks, the stripped down print is fine for them. What's key is we're able to support that as one more derivative of print. We realize that a lot of the enterprises, they don't necessarily want to let go of the feature functionality of the drivers and have those as requirements, but maybe in some remote folks or other folks, IPP print or WPP print, whatever you want to call it, would be appropriate. So we see it as one more derivative in the enterprise environment that we need to support as a part of the whole global print package.
Microsoft are definitely having an impact on the future of print by making these changes, and also the fact that with Windows 11 upgrade happening soon. So I think it's more of a pressing need for organisations to really sort of evaluate their print environment and ensure that they can still print with the changes coming forward with WPP. Because as you mentioned, there are many companies that will still want to use native drivers. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens in terms of how organisations support that.
Yeah, as I said, flexibility is key. Being able to future-proof things. We have no idea if the market's going to really adopt WPP, and even if it does, there's going to be all sorts of flavors of ice cream out there, and everybody loves different flavors of ice cream. So we've got them all.
On that note, in terms of future-proofing, and we can't have a conversation without discussing AI at the moment. So Tungsten have launched some AI-powered security features. How do you feel they make a difference in some real-world customer case scenarios?
So we recently introduced with Printix our AI Copilot, and what that does for customers is it makes it easier to do implementation and also be able to have a standard settings as they deploy in different geographies around the planet in a much easier fashion. Plus, with Printix's ability to have regional administrators as well, and regional administrative rights, they're able to, in an easy, simple, plain language type of way, do feature functionality like setting up a guest user without having to set up an IT call. Just use the AI Copilot, set up a guest user for me, and it does it for them, even supplies a username and a key passcode. And they don't have to call IT or anything like that. Or if they need to set up a localized capture workflow, or if a particular office, say in South America, they need to have a private blob for temporary document storage. There's some data sovereignty issues. Just using the plain, simple language of that Copilot to set up that blob in the private cloud for them in South America. It just makes things a lot easier. It does things in a standardized way, so you don't have any of those anomalies that happen when people deploy things on their own. So it really enhances security. And then with our interconnectivity with the rest of our platform, Printix Control Suite, our on-premise that has a lot of robust features, and then also our Power PDF desktop product, which could serve as a hub that connects with those, and then our Total Agility product that does a lot of unstructured data and workflow. They all integrate together. And we have a lot of our AI that's a part of our Total Agility product that AI enables the entire platform. So really the power that we bring is the integration of not just print, but print with workflow, print with IDP, print with you name it, data loss prevention initiatives. We're able to unify everything together in one platform, leverage AI throughout the entire workflow, and really be a complete middleware solution, flexible enough to take care of just about any type of integration issues in the middle or any endpoint flexibility, address just about any endpoint and any capture point as well in any type of printer device. It's very, very robust, and we give customers that flexibility, not just for what they're running into today around the globe, but what they may be running into over the next 5 years.
As you say, I think, AI, the application of AI to the print environment isn't just about the printed document, it's also about capture and workflow. And Tungsten has that broad platform to help customers, ultimately integrate their capture, print and output across one platform. And I guess that's all, really based on what we were discussing about future-proofing and modernising the print and capture environment as well. So in terms of looking ahead, are there any other areas that you see AI really having an impact in the print environment or the capture environment beyond what you just mentioned, perhaps in print security specifically?
I do see a lot of AI, especially when it comes to the content of a printed document. So it's not just, looking at a header and a footer of a print job. Just about every package can do that. What we bring to the table with our Control Suite Output Manager portion is we're able to interrogate a document and see the actual content of that printed document or the content of a captured or scanned document as well. There could be intellectual property, there could be PII, there could be who knows that are in those documents. But being able to determine what that content is, who's printing it, what time of day are they printing it, what day are they printing it, where are they printing it at, applying AI to all of those parameters and figuring out, hey, is there a security risk here? Do I see a pattern here? And being able to make decisions based upon those parameters. I see more and more of that type of need happening, especially when it comes to data loss prevention initiatives.
So Ben, in terms of future trends in the industry beyond security, are there any particular trends that you see that will shape the industry in the future and how you're seeing your customers shift their approach potentially in the coming year?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things. So I know I've mentioned it a few times, but the modernization of the laptop and desktops, ensuring that they have, IT teams have that control and capability to be able to deploy apps pretty much at any time is probably the biggest trend that we're seeing right now, which is calling the need for being able to bridge that gap between a print estate now and ultimately how things are managed in a more cloud-centric way. And I think we're going to see a few more waves of that, to be totally transparent with you. That would be the biggest trend. But some of the things that we also need to be aware of is, what is going to be next? We've already touched on it here now, but WPP, what does that mean for some other customers in different environments, different type of verticals as well? I think we're going to see a big shift. And also, I mentioned it earlier, but being able to have a holistic view of your entire print estate, not just focusing on, the bigger devices that are under an MPS agreement where you have all your servicing rolled up within that, trying to make sure that you accommodate every device that is currently printing within that organization. And I think that's probably one of the biggest trends we're going to see within the MPS community specifically.
Yeah, we do have some exciting things coming up, and we're working very closely with Microsoft and Amazon and other partners out there in being able to help businesses accommodate not just the variety of things that are in their own environment, but some businesses, they want to accommodate, for example, toner for the employee printers. Perhaps it's cheaper or less expensive to supply toner and inkjet for them directly versus employees expensing it. We're working on a solution that's in beta right now in being able to work with Amazon Business in having automated fulfillment uh, of different inkjet toners all over the globe with any type of model of printer, whether it be at an employee's home environment or anywhere else. So we're really excited about, uh, it's a different angle, but it's getting some traction, and it's pretty cool. There's other things that we're doing that it brings print where the print is a part of the customer's product that they provide to their customers. For example, outputting of labels for pharmaceutical or also the outputting of different documents for work benefits types of organizations to their client organizations, being able to securely deliver that as a product. We're able to, because of our APIs and the flexibility Printix brings, accommodate those types of workflows. We're making the box a bit bigger. It's not just operational print. It's more exciting stuff than that. It's the deliverables of toner, which also sounds antiquated, but it's exciting to be able to bring that into our product and also making it so that our customers can deliver products that include print that enhance their bottom line and increase their margins. And it's just exciting to be a part of all those different elements of print.
So it's been really great to understand more about the Tungsten Automation platform. And, if we can just close really, if businesses are potentially still on the fence around moving to cloud print, what would you say would be one reason which they should switch to Printix today?
Don't leave print behind. That is the number one takeaway. Make sure that it forms part of your wider projects and initiatives that you've got ongoing, because if it's not addressed or accounted for, it's going to cause a lot of pain as you're going through that transition, pain that you don't need and can easily prevent by working with someone like ourselves.
As I said before, it's all about flexibility. And part of that is a lot of folks, when they look at purchasing a new fleet of printers or MFPs, a lot of times a print management solution is folded into that. I think maybe it's time, because of the changes in the market, you have to cover so many different brands of printers that are out there. Maybe it's time to decouple those transactions. So you have a hardware transaction and a separate print management transaction, because really it's true middleware. You need to have the flexibility to adapt to changes, whether it be on the front end of that process, the back end of that process, or in the middle of that process. And we are able to accommodate all those types of scenarios. So if you decide to say, I'm going to get rid of printer brand X and bring in printer brand Y, guess what? We are able to handle all those curveballs that you could throw at it, and you're not handcuffed to the solution that came with your hardware purchase. So it makes sense to decouple those two transactions and give yourself some flexibility.
Really important point, actually, because many organizations, especially large enterprises, are potentially managing multi-vendor fleets, and by having this vendor agnostic approach that Tungsten Automation offers, then you can integrate regardless of what devices they're using in software by being that middleware. So, I think it's really, really interesting. I really appreciate the insightful conversation. In the show notes, we'll link to some of the material to direct viewers and listeners to Tungsten Automation's solutions portfolio. But in the meantime, thank you very much for joining me today.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Willa.
Thank you for joining today's episode of In the Spotlight with Quocirca. For more information, please visit quocirca.com and be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thanks again for joining, and I look forward to seeing you in our next episode.